Everybody, we are so excited you are here. I am Lindsay McGuire. I'm the Associate Director of Content and Campaigns at Goldcast. We are really excited to dive into all sorts of details about how to boost webinar registrations, specifically in the EU market and the UK market. We have great guests joining us, but I have a few little pieces of housekeeping to review first. So we'll jump on into that. So again, we are here for Engage, Convert, Repeat, building reliable pipeline and revenue in the European market. So pumped to dive into this, lots to share. So first off, let's talk housekeeping, everyone's favorite thing to cover, right? So first and foremost, drop your comments in that chat over on the right side. We do have some exciting prizes that we can share. So if you engage today, you'll get entered in those prizes, and I'll tell you what those are in just 1 second. If you have questions as we're going through the presentation, be sure to drop those into the Q&A tab on the right. There will be an on-demand recording available after the event, so don't worry if you need to return to anything we've shared. We got a lot coming your way. And also, we will share the deck as well too, post-event. Speaking of things shared, also hit up the Docs tab. There is a ton of really great content available for you in the Docs tab, talking all about how to boost your registrations, your conversion rates, best use webinar content as a way to boost your pipeline. So all those goodies are over on that right side. So be sure to take some time over there. Say hello, drop a comment, tell me where you're from. So I am actually US based. The only one I believe of our panel today who's US based. I'm calling in from Indianapolis, Indiana area. So it is actually early morning for me. I believe most of you, though, it's almost end of day. So a great way to close out your day, if I do say so myself. And again, be sure you're checking out all those documents, the Q&A. And then if there's anyone that you want to connect with from this event, feel free to check out that People's tab or the messages. And then at any point in time, if you have any interest in learning more about the Goldcast platform, whether our Goldcast events platform and or our Content Lab AI-powered video repurposing tool, please hit that Get a Goldcast demo button at the very top. We would be happy to tell you more, show you more of what Goldcast can do to help support your webinar programming and your video campaigns. And then you probably just saw a poll pop up. I would love for you to take some time to go over to that polls tab. And the first one's actually kind of fun. So our first poll is talking about if AI were to make marketing videos for you, what kind of format would you choose for that? And there's some kind of fun, different options there. So hop over to polls, let us know what you're thinking. And then throughout the presentation, we'll also have other polls. So talking about those prizes, who's excited for a prize? Drop your favorite GIF in the chat if you're excited to win something cool today. So we have 2 giveaways. The first is a Stanley Cup. The way that you get entered into that drawing is to attend live, which you're already halfway there, y'all, and then submit a question for the panel in the Q&A tab. Everyone loves a Stanley Cup. I don't know if they're as hot overseas as they are in the US, but they are a huge deal here, like people waiting hours outside Target. It's wild. If there's I don't know if there's a Target equivalent overseas, but drop in the comments if there's like a Target equivalent over there that y'all might go for your Stanley Cup or something similar to that. And then the other giveaway we have today is the Bose waterproof Bluetooth speaker, a very popular item. The people who've won this in the past have really loved it. So what you need to do to be entered into that giveaway is attend live. One of 3 things done for you all. Submit a question in the Q&A, and then post a recap of the event on LinkedIn or your social channel of choice. Be sure to tag us just so we see the post, know, and get you into that drawing. So without further ado, let's talk about what we're going to cover today. First, we're going to talk about content, so engaging and converting your target audience. Second is promo, driving awareness and registrations in Europe. Third is conversion journey from engagement to pipeline. So how to be sure that you're building that pipeline with all that good content you're putting together. And then the road to efficiency, leveraging and repurposing your content. So now I'm going to stop sharing my slides for just 1 second so you can see us all, our faces all big and beautiful. And I'm going to start introducing our speakers. So first off, I am welcoming Leonardo. Leonardo, please come to stage, share a little bit about yourself with our audience before we jump into the content.
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Lindsay. I must say, I do love that intro. and very excited about the Bo speaker. If anyone does win that, just slip a DM on my LinkedIn. Anyway, so I'm the director of demand gen for a company called iSecurity. We protect small to medium-sized businesses around Europe against cyber threats. Typical cybersecurity company. I've typically led revenue and growth marketing teams from seed to Series B companies. But for the people that know me, my true passion lies in hummus. I'm a big hummus fan. That is the one dish that I have every single day. And there's definitely a correlation between like marketing thinking and hummus. Something that I'm happy to elaborate after this call.
Wow, powerful tip there. I also am a hummus lover. I'm pescatarian, so it plays a big role in my eating habits, I'd say. And I think you even have hummus mentioned in your LinkedIn headline. So yes, hummus, big deal in your life.
Yeah, realize it's a personal brand tactic, so why not use it?
Great. Well, Leonardo, we're so excited you're here. Next up, I want to welcome Liam to the stage. Yeah, overall marketing expert and also a Goldcast customer who can share some of the details about how he uses Goldcast.
Hi, Lindsay. And hi, everyone. Really pleased to be here. I'm Liam. I'm VP of Marketing here at Cognizm. We're a B2B data provider and sales intelligence tool. I've been working at Cognizm now for 5 years, so I'm firmly part of the furniture. So I think people just sort of nod at me as they go past, seeing me around all the time. But yeah, I'm very excited to be here. Also, really jealous of whoever wins that speaker. So I'm up to fight Leonardo for it if anyone wants to. Maybe there's another Goldcast event, just a direct fight. So let me know.
I would say duel to the death, but that sounds very extreme. But yes, and as a reminder, if you want to win that really cool speaker, be sure to pop in a question at some point during the presentation and then hop on over to your social media voice and share about this event and what you learned from it. We'd love to see it. So last but not least, I want to introduce Silvio. Silvio, come up on stage. He is our paid ads expert today. Hey, Silvio.
Hey, Lindsay. Hey, everybody. Super excited to be here. I'm Silvio Perez. I'm the founder of AdConversion. We teach B2B marketers how to scale paid ads with free courses taught by some of the best practitioners in the world. And then in addition to that, we're also an ad agency helping top sales-led and product-led SaaS companies scale globally, like brands like ActiveCampaign, Mixpanel, Checker, to name a few, where we're helping them lead those paid advertising initiatives to scale in the EU and abroad.
Awesome. Well, as you can see, we have a very well-rounded panel today. So I'm super excited for everything everyone will share from their kind of diverse angles of where you're coming from demand gen and content, paid ads, webinar campaigns. It's going to be fun. So we're going to go back to some slides, but this is going to be kind of a casual conversation across all of us today. So again, everyone hop in, even if it's not your own slide. And then, of course, audience, if you have questions as you're watching, please pop them in the Q&A and be sure to upvote those questions. We want to know what's most important to you to answer at the end of this webinar. So let's dive in. First, we're going to talk about content, engaging and converting your target audience. And of course, as a reminder, we're going to be sprinkling a flavor of EU and UK audience engagement through this too. So if you have questions about that too, again, pop them in that Q&A. So Leonardo, I think you are starting us off with 3 pillars to creating relevant and impactful content. Let's do it.
Yeah, this was, I guess this was a challenging one to put together because as marketers, we're always trying to kind of box ideas and simplify things. And, after reflecting over the years in terms of like running hundreds of webinars and generating over 100 million worth of pipeline, they all had these 3 things in common. So the first one, which I'm sure we've all heard about, which is focus on creating valuable and shareable content. I think valuable and the term value add is more seen as a buzz term. People have different definitions of what's considered valuable. So the one question I would ask the audience is when reflecting on the content that you're producing, ask yourself, would my target persona typically pay for this? And I promise you that when you set the bar that high, your outlook to content will change completely. And in terms of content that resonates with your target audience, that people perceive So one thing is it generally being valuable, another thing is people perceiving it of value. A great way is just looking onto social media platforms like LinkedIn and seeing what pieces of content are trending in that specific topic. You can then pick up that topic and do a webinar on that topic alone. That's something that you have the proof of concept for. And then, when we talk about creating valuable pieces of content, I think when you look at paid courses, community subscriptions, you'll realize that it's often not a journey that a single company or individual takes alone. So let's say I'll use AdConversion as an example from Silvio. Silvio has a number of the best paid marketers kind of supporting him running these courses. So my next point is, next time you are running a webinar like this one that we're doing right now, look at bringing influencers and external experts in that topic. These people typically have a reach beyond that your brand has currently. And a good way of doing that is by using a tool called 5 Icon to identify topics, industries, and influences in that field. And I guess the last point is one that I'd love to also get Liam and Silvio's take on this, but personally have felt this countless of times, which is great content doesn't always sell. Like, we can write about the top trending topic, we can rank number one on SEO, but it might be that we struggle converting users. So really the highlight here is try to connect the dots as naturally as possible to what you're trying to sell. And the buzzword here is focus on contextual calls to action. So if someone's signing up for a webinar around, let's say, scaling your growth in the EU, then your call to action needs to be around what hooked them in the first place. If you don't do that, then that's where you typically see a drop-off in conversions. So yeah, I think I'm keen to get feedback from the rest of the speakers on this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree very much with that last point. And in fact, I think a lot of the content we created at Cognizm to begin with, we actually, if anything, I think when starting on our journey, we almost neglected some of the bottom of funnel content because we like found such success with like big, broad topics that people were just interested in finding out about, and also just content that was helpful for people. And that's what brought people in. We were actually just being able to provide value very basically, right? It's typical like marketing technique, but we were providing value, help, some entertainment, and it brought people to the Cognizant brand. I think we actually had to switch up a little bit with and actually do some of that bottom funnel content, because we ended up getting feedback being like, I don't know what you could do, but I love your content. So that actually was a compliment and a problem at the same time. And even now, that's how the team is set up. So we have content that is focused on demand capture. We think about it that way, which is that content where there is a direct link, obviously, to the product. And then we have a content team that focuses on that demand generation content that is about engaging and bringing people in and thinking about content that from an engagement standpoint and what is also interesting for people, as opposed to just how it relates to Cognizm and then how quickly we can therefore sell the product. So yeah, I very much agree with that. And also a big fan of working with external experts and influencers. I think this is the quickest way to give any content authority and catapult it out to the rest of your audience. So I have a lot of good things to say about working with external influencers.
On the ads perspective too, a huge mistake that I see all the time that brands make is they build these retargeting pools of users that have only consumed thought leadership content, and they've gotten all this great value from the brand, but they have no idea what the brand actually does. There's no content that connects to the capabilities of the product, how it can actually help you, how it connects to the topic that your webinar is on or your event is about. It's hard to connect that line for them. So that's also kind of a trap I think a lot of brands fall into. And if you are looking for ROI on your content, especially if you're putting paid ads behind it, then make sure that it's very obvious that throughout the presentation, whether it's a webinar, like right now we're on a Goldcast webinar using Goldcast, it's like a very clear connection, right? On how the dots connect. Sometimes it's not that easy and you have to get a little bit creative on how you can connect the dots. But I think it's a really good reminder to always connect those dots for sure.
Yeah, and one perspective I'll bring, kind of tying on to that and coming back to that in collaboration with external experts. One thing that we do often is tapping into our customer pool and highlighting their expertise, but also being able to pull it back into what our product does, what we can help you achieve, and showing my cards a little bit. But Liam, of course, is in that spotlight today for us. So kind of sharing what we do in that realm. But I think let's go on to this next section in the content. So hook, line, and closer framework. Let's dive into this one, Leonardo.
Nice. So for those who have been following Rand Fishkin or Spark Thorough, you might be familiar with a similar framework, hook, line, and sinker. And definitely recommend following Spark Thorough for some of the content that relates to this. This is essentially repurposing this and replacing the sinker with the closer. Because we just discussed that it's often a common mistake that marketers make in terms of like making the content memorable, but then not being able to kind of connect the dots. When we talk about running webinar promotions, whether it's running a landing page or an email, or my favorite, which is social media posts, look at the biggest content creators on LinkedIn. Start with that. So I'm using Justin Welsh as a perfect example. And we're in the era where social media is shaping how we think, how we consume content. If you look at email content, if you look at articles, everything has that kind of same feel. Short sentences, very natural flow, hook, line, sinker, hook, line, closer approach. So something that I've experienced a lot in running, this is specifically paid campaigns, is it can be the difference between you running a successful campaign or not, barely generating conversions if you don't nail this framework, which is find a hook that relates to your persona, try to include that persona in the hook, or get some validation that this does resonate with them. Elaborate on that point. So what is the webinar about? What kind of value can you bring that user? And then in a very short format, close that with some social proof. So in this example from Justin Welsh, he has some social proof such as 900 million people following him. In the example of us running a webinar, we might maybe tie into the fact that if you register for the event, there are gift incentives, or we'll send you the recording afterwards. So there's always incentives that you can kind of add to that kind of closer approach. But I saw this and thought this kind of framework is something that we're seeing not just on social, but across every forms of content.
One thing I'll add on the hook piece is, if in my experience auditing brands, is the one thing that I think most brands can improve on is just becoming more clear in their messaging. If you just rewrote the same hook and you just were more specific about the outcome someone will get and who it's for, it'll perform better by and large. It's like the old saying goes, it's better to be clear than clever. And oftentimes people aren't giving you that time of day, right, to actually like process your post and understand what's the punchline here. So if anything, just try to focus on being as specific as you can. We're hosting a webinar on X topic. Are you struggling with Y problem? Are you Z person? Then check us out at X time, if you will. And then one very specific thing I will say for events and writing copy for events is, if you have a recording, make sure it's known in the post, because that's like the number one most commonly asked question is there a recording? And if there is a recording, you should mention in the post and say, hey, like if you don't have the time, you should sign up anyways, because there will be a recording sent out afterwards, and that'll get you a bump.
Well, you stole my line on the be clear over clever. And then one tip we have heard, so we run a community for event marketers called the Event Marketers Club. And we did some asking of our membership there about how they're using AI. And one interesting use case that was brought up is to take your event or webinar copy, put it into an AI tool and ask it, is it clear what the intention of this event is, or is it clear what the attendees will get out of it? So I definitely love that tip. Anything else on this hook, line, and closer until we jump into the next one? Going once, going twice. Okay.
I think, Lindsay, I'll just add only because you brought the AI bit, and that kind of caught me, which is I use AI for hooks almost every single time. There's a particular framework I'm happy to share after this call that I got from someone called, I think his name is Ruben on LinkedIn. He's the biggest kind of like AI content creator. And if you tell ChatGPT to act as a social media expert and you feed in 5 of the top posts like this one, and you give it your topic, it will generate the best hooks for you. And this is a format that has never failed for me personally. You can always redo them, but it's a framework that I wouldn't be surprised that most social media content creators would use.
And because I can't miss a plug, if you're looking for a tool to help you do that, consider Content Lab, especially if you're repurposing your webinar content and looking for ways to share on social. It's a great AI-powered tool that can help you make those hooks. But speaking of Goldcast, I think you have a little bit to share about audience engagement during webinars, which of course is kind of our wheelhouse. But Leonardo, what's your take here?
Yeah, so my take with engagement is, there's a quote that I love using, which is in most sessions, don't just be present or don't just present to the void, trying to connect with your audience. Much like you did in the intro, Lindsay, which I must say I love that start bit from the backstage. But I would say that from using Goldcast and other solutions, and also just to be completely transparent, that from the solutions I've used, Goldcast is definitely a lot more superior when it comes to the engagement offers that it has in the platform. It's not just about features, it's how you use them. So in terms of polls, incorporating icebreakers, engaging with the chat, but also being able to promote like real life examples during the session, and sharing resources that people wouldn't typically find elsewhere. In short, I know we ran a event series at Lunio that was incredibly successful. We had over 1,000 registrations, and it was one of the biggest events we've ever run. And what we did with the event series is we made the kind of Goldcast page into a resource hub. Anyone registering to these events would be able to download over like 50 different resources, everything in the same topic. In the same series, we also had Silvio as one of the speakers and a couple of other members. And people will be able to kind of engage and consume content in the topic that they're interested, all within a single experience. I don't want to take too much of this time because I think Liam has more to add as a valued customer.
Yeah, I mean, just that we have a real use case of this. That I was predominant reason why a couple of years ago we became Goldcast customers, and now we run an event where we have this interactive element. Every 2 weeks we run a cold calling live, and this is it's the main format of a webinar that we run. So we have people, sales reps come up, can be customers or prospects, and they run their cold calling pitches and role play with Morgan Ingram, who is an influencer that we work with in the space, and it works really well. Obviously, all sales reps love to challenge themselves. They love to get advice and feedback. So you get lots of people who take part and dominate, and obviously Goldcast makes it really easy. And we don't actually then have to come up with a huge amount of content as well, and slides or anything like that, because the SDRs that come on and do their pitches are the content. So it's just a really easy, repeatable way of running a webinar, and the audience stays extremely engaged. Everyone celebrates the people that come up and actually give it a go. That keeps them involved. It encourages people then who maybe weren't sure that they wanted to come up and do a pitch. They then raise their hand to take part. So it becomes really cyclical. So yeah, I highly recommend involving the audience and keep in this way, because it really works.
I love that. That's such a creative, smart idea. And I want to pull up one of our polls just to kind of like show off a little bit of how we can keep you in this. So I'm going to share this on stage. So here is kind of where we're going of how often do you run webinars? So it looks like we're Once a month is a usual cadence, but there are some people running them twice a month. So again, if you want to, I have one more poll open, I think, if you want to take that. But again, here's another way too that you can engage with your audience through those interactive polls, is bringing it back on stage and talking about it, sharing it as a data point. So I'm surprised that no one did once a quarter, but I guess not. If I think about our last webinar benchmark report, the once a month seemed to be, I think the average was a company would run 13 webinars in a year. So I think that once a month is about on par, but we're coming out with another benchmark report and this data has changed. So be on the lookout for that. Well, I'm going to stop sharing this poll and we're going to actually hop into the next section of our content. So let me get back to my slides here. So we are going to now hop into the promotional side of this. So driving awareness and registrations in Europe. So I think this one we're going to hit a little bit more in the very niche details of kind of the UK, EU audience. So first off, we're going to talk about the future of conversions is frictionless. All right, Leonardo, where are we going with this one?
Yeah, so this one, I guess this applies to, I mean, this pretty much applies to all regions, not just Europe and UK. But I think what's interesting is that when we look at privacy regulations, GDPR and so on, the restrictions around, how people share that data and consent to mark the emails, this is where the kind of frictionless approach really comes to play. So I guess this kind of goes back to, at the start of my career, picked up on this transition to marketers and platforms reducing the friction in getting people to convert. And if we ask ourselves, like, it's kind of silly that we send out these emails and we get people to fill in a form, especially when we already know who they are. And some people or some businesses, they'll get these people to fill in different forms just for the sake of tracking, but they already know who they are. And I think there are two methods, like super low budget, super efficient methods of driving hundreds of registrations that I wanted to highlight. The first one is, you might already know this, lead gen forms on LinkedIn. This can be used across paid, and Silvio will touch on that. But I wanted to specifically touch on LinkedIn events. So the same way as we create a LinkedIn event, LinkedIn allows you to invite 1,000 of your connections, and it takes over 5 minutes to do so. This is 1,000 connections from one individual. You can see why this model is completely broken. And this also explains why some of these events end up seeing over 5,000, 10,000 plus attendees. Because when you get a bunch of influencers together, mass inviting their connections, you end up with a massive pool of first-party data that you can then do whatever you want with. And the second point is more touching on access to your CRM. So, your kind of traditional email cadence going to your marketing contacts saying, hey, there's this webinar happening, fill in this form and so on. A really good tactic to try is give them the option to skip the form. Just say, look, if you're interested in joining, you can read more about it here, or you can skip the form just by clicking this link. And you can have a workflow that auto opts them into the webinar when they click on that. That's a very efficient method that you can do with plain text emails. We've ran this consistently, and I've never seen a drop off in users not showing up. So even people who have signed up just with a single click, they were as committed as the people who filled in the form. So I thought that was quite interesting. And I think, the future truly is going to be less form fields, more identification, user identification, and platforms relying on the information they already have on the user. So LinkedIn relying on your LinkedIn profile, and CRMs like Salesforce and HubSpot relying on the CRM data that you have.
I want to ask a follow-up question on that, though. You said in a plain text email. So in these email campaigns, are they coming from persons within your organization? Are they coming from your brand? Is it a mix of both? I'm intrigued by that comment of the plain text email. Give me more details.
Yes. Plain text. So I've done countless A/B tests around this. Plain text never fails to outperform a generic marketing email. I would say the perfect sequence would look a little bit like this. So you would send a or what looks like a marketing email, an announcement email. And the reason why we still do this is this might still appeal to certain individuals. individuals who might not be as receptive to another individual trying to reach out directly. Because the moment you see a plain text email, you immediately smell a sales pitch. So the marketing email kind of gives you that flavor of, this is an announcement, you can hype it up, this is why you don't want to miss it. And then the plain text just guarantees that email is delivered to the person directly. It doesn't have images, it's very low res, and it doesn't need to come from your salesperson. This is the important thing, is that if you are a MarTech company and you're selling to marketers, have it come from your VP of marketing, as an example. Or if you're selling to IT or cybersecurity experts, change the signature and make it come from a cybersecurity expert. These are just some small hacks that can really make a difference in your engagement.
Yeah, I love that. And we actually run that similar strategy for our AI Marketing Alliance. So that is an alliance of marketing CMOs, VPs, directors who are all hoping to get on the forefront of using AI. If anyone wants an invite, let us know. We'll drop the link to more information in the chat. But what we do with the invites for those events and those summits and that alliance in general is they do come from Palash, our CEO, because he's at a level that will resonate with that audience. So love that tip. So I think next we're going into rally the troops and team up to boost your reach. So I think this one's all about maximizing who's going to get to see all the good content you're creating, right?
Yep, that's basically it. I mean, it's a term I've also used it to introduce businesses too. But this doesn't just apply to be honest, this doesn't just apply to webinar campaigns. This applies to any marketing campaign that you run. And it's a term that I've kind of gotten hooked into called hype marketing. So hype marketing is the idea of creating this buzz, this feel for individuals both internally and externally that they want in. They want to collaborate, they want to help promote, they want to help kind of contribute towards your success. And hype marketing can often be the difference between you running a successful event campaign or not seeing the registrations at all, because maybe you might rely on paid as a channel only. The reality of the tactics that we've shown earlier involves multiple stakeholders kind of going in, inviting their networks to attend, sending out emails, getting sales proactive, getting their buy-in to invite individuals to attend the webinar if they see value. And I think this kind of boils down to two areas. So you have your internal selling, which is empowering your team as ambassadors of the campaign, so getting them to share on social and share into your internal Slack channel as well, so that the company is really pumped up about the campaign that you're running. Involving different departments, so that's another thing, which is you might typically want to involve your VP of sales or VP of product if that's relevant, and get them to kind of preach the campaign towards their team. And what's going to happen is then you have individual team members talking about the same topic, the same theme. And depending on the event that you're running, they might know individuals that might want to attend. So this reminds me of even at a previous role at a company called Lunio. We were selling to marketers, but we had IT people, security individuals, devs inviting their marketing connections because they were so invested into what we were doing. And one of the things that powered that was creating internal challenges with incentives. So just gamify it internally, which is a great way of doing it. And I'd say the last one is pretty straightforward, and it's what most companies do, which is looking outwards, so externally. We spoke about involving influencers, but partners play a big role. And on the topic of partners is also identifying your industry allies. So you'll have a number of customers, champions, and industry allies that you'll want to collaborate with. And two is better than one. So why not partner with another company that doesn't directly compete with you, but you might have a shared audience with? And that way you can split promo costs, you can share audiences with that company. These are some examples of campaigns that we've run with other MarTech solutions that don't directly compete with the company I was at previously. So that's a great tactic to use.
Yeah, those are great. And Jillian, who is handling our chat today, drop in a Q&A from me, please. I want to know more about this internal what was it, internal engagement plays and like how you can do that. So add that to Q&A for me, Jillian. We'll get back to that here in a little bit, but I find that really fascinating, especially if you're an org that's running a lot of virtual events and webinars. You know, there's always like, oh, there's another one I have to promote or have to share. And so I think that could be something interesting to dive into more. But we're going to go on into the next one, and that's make the most of your paid media budget.
Yeah, so for this slide here, I really want to just give people a framework to think about how to go about promoting their event. So this can apply to a large conference, a webinar as well, if it's on demand. And this is an example of a $10,000 budget. So these are the phases that we think about when we're promoting events. So we've had the good fortune to be a part of some pretty large scale events. One of our clients, Skydio, does this AI drone event every year. It's the largest AI drone event in the world with over 20,000 registrations. And this is how we think about actually putting and promoting a large scale event. So you can take the same concept and apply it on a smaller scale with a monthly webinar, for example. So first you have the pre-event phase. This is where the majority of your budget's going to go. And kind of like reinforcing the last slide, you really want to get people excited. You want to drive as much interest and registrations before the event itself. And part of getting people excited is the creatives you use, making sure that people can actually see what it's like, what they're going to experience. It's the copy you use, like switching from using bland, generic words to using emotionally compelling, powerful words. So little plays like this go a long way at actually getting people excited or actually attending the event. So 60% of your budget is going to go there. 20% of your budget is going to go towards event day. Now, this one, a lot of people miss. We, in my experience, it's usually all pre-event. Once event day comes, everyone's like, turn off the campaigns, the events, you know, we're ready to have the event, and that's the end of it. But kind of like a pro tip that I always recommend to clients is host your events mid to late afternoon so that you can run this same day event campaign so you can allow more same day registrations. It's kind of like a small little hack, and it gives you an opportunity to get some more people through the door. And this is especially important when you're selling events that have a paid ticket purchase price, because most of the ticket sales will come towards the end of the event. So event day, this will be focusing on creatives that are showcasing, like countdown timers do really well here, showcasing creatives that actually show what it's going to be like in the actual experience itself, if it's possible. And I'll kind of go more into this in the future slides. But essentially, you're getting people to act right now. You're like, hey, there's no more waiting. Now is the time to go. And if you are running an event where it is truly a unique experience and there's something that they're going to miss out on, like showcase that in the copy. You really want to focus on FOMO here. That's the main goal with the event day campaigns. For post-event, this is, event is over. So now if it is on demand, if you were able to repurpose and actually create content from the event, then this is where you want to kind of keep the event alive, if you will, and start to drive more registrations post-event. So that way you can get more utility out of the content that you already went through, because it's not easy, right, to put on these events. And it's a lot of like pain and effort, especially if it's a large scale conference. So you really want to make sure you get your money's worth. And then finally, 10% will go towards the repurposing phase. And I know we're going to go much more into the weeds on that in future slides. But this is where now you can really focus on just repurposing content, recycling the event content, and reusing it for future promotions. So this is a really simple framework for those of you watching this to apply. And practically speaking, what this might look like is you will have campaigns in your ad manager per phase. So it'll be really easy for you from a budget tracking perspective. You can just include pre-event, event day, post-event, and repurpose in your naming conventions. And then you can track towards how much you're spending in those corresponding campaigns.
I love it. Not to plant a seed here, but I'm going to plant a seed. If you want that speaker, or if you're watching this on demand, there might be some goodies for you too here. But this is a great screenshot slide right here, because I think so many people have questions about where to put my money when it comes to paid campaigns. So definitely consider sharing this because this is one that over and over again during Goldcast events, we always get questions around like, how should I divvy up my paid campaigns? How should I run my paid campaigns? Liam, Leonardo, anything to add before we hop into this next slide? No? Cool. All right. So, oh, yeah. What we got?
Oh, no. All good from my end. It's very clear.
And so next we have make the most out of your paid media budget, part 2. So what we got part 2?
So this is kind of a continuation of the previous slide. So just kind of some quick actionable tips to really maximize your event promotion. Number one, in our experience, testing creatives extensively for events specifically, we have found that the ads that showcase speakers, attendees, or topics perform the best. So these are the 3 things we always try to focus on when we're putting together creatives and content that we want to showcase in our campaigns. So throughout all of those different phases, like these are the 3 pillars that we're kind of focusing on. So number 1, can we showcase our speakers? So the way that might take form and light might look differently. So now with thought leadership ads, it might be an actual LinkedIn post from the speaker that's then promoted as an ad. And that's an example of showcasing the speaker directly from, and it's a really good format. It might look like a single image ad showcasing their topic and their title. If the speakers are down and they're willing to film like a really casual, like iPhone style video, those do really well as well, just really showcasing the speakers. Another thing too that works really well is kind of like the poster image, where you showcase all the speakers in one image to kind of, especially if you have a lot of speakers, like quantify the amount of experts that the audience is going to get access to by being a part of this event. Even just having like we had one event where we had 45 speakers. So it's like we had such small circles of headshots for every person, but just kind of quantifying the amount of speakers, those do really well too, those posters. Attendees. So if depending on the event itself, this may or may not be applicable, but if this is a recurring event and you have past attendees that kind of speak to this series or this conference or what this thing is, those do great. Nothing sells like that. And then in addition to that, if you know people that are going to be attending your event and you have good connections with them, and you can reach out to them and say like, hey, so-and-so, would you be willing to make a comment on like why you're looking forward to this event? And then that becomes social proof for you to use from an attendee on your ads. So now it's like, I'm looking forward to this Goldcast webinar because I'm looking to learn X, Y, Z. And then just taking that one concept, now it's just a matter of how do you present it? Is it a thought leadership ad, single image ad? Is it a video? And so on and so forth. And then finally is the topics. So I think in my experience where most events go wrong is, and this is more so like in terms of the content creation, but the topics themselves are not on a timely thing in the industry, and it's not a strong pain point. So depending on how well you did in terms of choosing your topics will reflect on your ad performance here. So assuming it's really solid topics, you definitely want to make sure that you showcase that and people can understand what they're going to receive from the event. The second tip I have here is to highlight an event hashtag in your ad copy. This is kind of a niche tip here, but it's really powerful. So for example, like your event 2024, you can put that hashtag in your ad copy. I like to put it towards the top of the post because not everyone, especially in my experience, like we've done a lot of events selling tickets. So they're not just free signups. So it's a lot harder to get somebody to actually convert. And for somebody to just see your ad and then buy a ticket, like right now we're promoting a cyber marketing conference, and the virtual ticket goes for like $600 and an in-person ticket goes for $995. To sell a $995 ticket with one ad, like, good luck. That's going to be really challenging. So what we do is we put the hashtag of that conference in the ad copy, and then all of the organic social posts, all of the ads are pointing to that hashtag. So then if the person wants to go down the rabbit hole, they can click on the hashtag from your ad, and now they can see all of this additional social proof and go down that rabbit hole and get more validation on why this event might be a good choice. So definitely recommend that. You can do this on a small scale too with webinars. Like you can create a hashtag for the webinars you're doing as well. Next one is to call out your ideal attendee. I kind of alluded to this earlier, but clear and specific messaging is it trumps everything else. Just being super clear on how you write your copy, not just how you write your copy and who you speak to, but also how you visualize your copy. Copy is first visual before it's actually interpreted. So make sure you're using, clear formatting, make sure you're using bullet points, emojis, make sure you're emphasizing different points. This is really important because it's like the same thing if it's an email, if it's a wall of text, it's going to be less visually appealing. It's going to be seen as a challenge and people are not going to be likely to consume and read it. So definitely make sure that you have clear and specific messaging and you format it in the best way possible. Next one is to test native lead forms. So especially for small events and webinars, if you're doing a large scale conference, there is value to sending someone to a registration page. Especially when there's a lot more content around it and you need to explain more. And especially if there's a ticket price associated with your event, you're probably going to have more success sending them to a sales page. But for specifically small events and webinars, like going back to like what Leo mentioned, things are becoming more native. So conversion rates are usually always greater with lead forms. And most of the form fields are pre-populated based on the person's information on their profile. So it's a really easy way for you to just drive more conversions. And as like a pro tip here is you can really very seamlessly integrate Slack alerts from lead form opt-ins. So you can send that into a channel and then in real time monitor the quality of the leads that are coming through for your event. So it can inform your audience exclusions. And the last one here, I usually get like a lot of comments on this one, but it's such a miss. If you're only promoting your event on LinkedIn, and I understand there might be exceptions here depending on who you're going after and the objective of this event, but in my experience, like we've promoted a lot of large scale events, like 20,000 registrations just on LinkedIn is really tough. Like that's usually a full scale effort, multi-channel, organic and paid, and LinkedIn alone won't do that. So I highly recommend experimenting outside of LinkedIn. My favorite channels based on what I've seen work is YouTube, Meta, and Twitter as well. So these are additional low-cost channels where you could get in front of your ICP and drive more registrations.
Yeah, and I'll highlight the video conversation using YouTube for that is definitely a great play. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Love to hear it. Next, we're kind of going into the last 12 minutes, so we're probably going to fly a little bit faster on this last half. But Liam, I think this is yours, of fast marketing tactics from Cognizm. Tell us more.
Yeah, so for us and in promotion, I'd say email remains a dominant channel for event registrations in general. And I think the important thing that to remember about email is that in Europe and like UK and France specifically, there's still the ability to cold email and opt out led email. So or we always have two sort of email programs running side by side. One where we have built up a community of people who are registering to our events, and especially like the reoccurring cold calling lives, so that we can re-invite the same people and we build that into a list, and that's like your warm audience. But then we're also building out cold email lists from Cognizm and inviting fresh new people in, and we get a lot of success there. And it's not to ignore the sort of that cold email invitation. And you can play around and test loads with that. So we've done a lot between HTML emails that are more engaging versus text-based emails and who those come from as well. And we've had lots of different success for different reasons there. And we also embed it in those nurtures that we have, like email nurtures that we have in flows. And one of the things that I would say here, which goes on to some of the rest of this, is that we'll set up a landing page where they can register for the event whenever. So it's always on. So if we've got a schedule of events every 2 weeks, we don't tell them the date they register. It gets pulled into a list. We then the email goes out with the date later, so that people can actually register for that event at any point. That means we can embed that in a nurture. People can know about the event. They know the brief sort of like idea of it, and then they'll get that invite later on with the full details of the event, and they can decide whether they turn up, and they're added to that list. That means that we don't have to have these episodic promotions of events all the time. We can just keep it running and embed it in things. And that's exactly what we then do with promotion through workflows. So we have different their events, some of them are more directed towards prospects, and then we also have stuff that's customer specific, and that means we can embed it in the sales process, so you can have it in different parts. Then when we're like we can add it into their like digital sales rooms on like Trumpet and give it as like content there and different ways they can engage with us. We have it in onboarding decks, and we have it in like the CS process as well. We also do very similar to, I suppose, what you were talking about earlier, Lindsay, with your process. Another way of promoting it is through content, ABM or content threading, which is what we would call it, whereas we have our target list of accounts and we'll invite people from those target list of accounts to take part in content, to bring them through into the content. And that means we get engagement in the account, working into getting into our access into that account. That obviously promotes us into the account we want to get into, but then we can also push back through them to promote the event further. In product promotion, so actually I've got a screenshot of this on the far right. This is our Chrome extension for Cognizm, which you can put out on LinkedIn or on any website. And we push a promotion through for a reoccurring event, for a customer event here, which pops up every month, and that after they decline it, it can pop back up again a month later. And that is pushed through Pendo. And in fact, that got us, I think we only recently did this. We were like deciding how we could promote it outside of email, so we didn't overuse that for customers specifically. And we put it up through Pendo, and also the main users of the Chrome extension are SDRs, and that's who we wanted in this event. And we got like 120 registrants in 3 days, just through pushing it through the product. And we have, and there's no chance there of any opt-outs or anything like that as well, because they can reject the notification, but it can come back in whatever sort of time that we set it to be. And then also influencer community promotion. So in, for example, in like DACH region, email is really difficult. So we partner with a community called the SDRs of Germany, and they go and they do a lot of our promotion and push through their community and drive through all of their channels, which they have big opt-in email lists, which means that then we take a step back from the email side there, and that gets us around having to build up this big opt-in list. And then also influence promotion in general. So I've got a post here from Morgan Ingram. So we have set numbers of posts that we can work with him to then promote to his audience, which has got over 150,000 followers on LinkedIn. So that's a huge audience that then we can tap into working with him. And then like a small last bit, especially for working in Europe, that localization is key to everything that we do, whether it's to UK, France, or Germany. It's all in natural language, and the content itself is also in natural language, so that it's end to end. There's no point, I don't think, in sending an email in French and then them turning up to a webinar in English. So we have different shows and different promotion in different languages for all of the key regions, which obviously massively then affects the results that you get in attendance rates.
Yeah, I think that's a huge, huge tip to keep in mind if you're trying to expand into other regions, other audiences, other countries. So very much a pro tip there. Thanks for sharing all those, Liam. Now we're going to jump into that conversion journey from engagement to pipeline. So first party data, who's talking about this?
That is me. So just to kind of speed through this, I know we're coming up on time, but the gist here is with advertising in Europe, with GDPR, we don't have as much flexibility on the available targeting options. And who knows what's going to happen with Google removing third-party cookies. They said they were going to remove it in 2023 and then 2025. And then now it's like, I don't know. So the one thing you can always rely on is data that you've collected that's first party. So these are just some like examples of sources of first party data just for reference. So that could be your website visitors, that could be people that visited your blog. These are all opportunities for you to retarget these individuals, assuming they opted into your consent, and you can showcase them your promotions for your events so that to get them to sign up. In addition to this, the CRM, there is so many opportunities here. And it's really just a matter of getting creative and the data that you have available to you. But this could be your newsletter subscribers. This could be a list from past event attendees. This could be existing customers. These could be prospects from closed lost opportunities. Like, you can really just spend a day thinking about all the ways you can slice and dice and push this audience into any really platform of choice if it's a contact list for targeting. And then the next one is in-app. So Liam, I totally am right there with you. It's so powerful, the in-app piece for first-party data. So if you do have some sort of application, free trial users are really powerful. Power users, all of these individuals can be really powerful for you to re-engage and get on your events. And then the last one, I kind of put a little star here because it's technically not first-party data because it's not yours. You don't own it. The platforms own it, but you aggregated it based on the interactions with your brand, which is, depending on the platform of choice, it'll look a little bit differently. But for social, for example, with LinkedIn, if you have a LinkedIn event, you can then retarget people that marked that they're attending your LinkedIn event page. If you have a company page, you can retarget followers, people that are visiting your pages. If you have a YouTube channel and you integrate it with your Google Ads account, you can retarget your YouTube subscribers. So all of these interactions with your brand through these social platforms are opportunities for you to retarget. The same is true for Twitter. If somebody has seen your organic tweets, those are options for you to now retarget them. So you can really create a really cool ecosystem to stay in front of these individuals through remarketing. I always say remarketing is the newsletter that no one decided to opt into, but they're stuck in. And this is an opportunity for you to maximize and engage with that newsletter.
I guess a fun way to position that. Yeah. So, and next we're going to go back to Cognizm and Liam and talk about how to capitalize on registrations.
Yeah. So I'll be really quick here, but essentially the from our perspective, you want to be creating demand with your events, and you don't want to be just collecting registrant details and following up on them through a sales process. I think the worst case situation for people sometimes is, you register for a webinar and then you know that you're going to receive that call later, even though that wasn't your intent behind signing up to that webinar in the first place. And actually sometimes we ruin the brand in that situation. We stop people turning up to events again. So the first point, I think, is to use it as a chance to create demand, build community, get someone. I think reoccurring attendees to your webinars is key. And also it also gets around some of that concern, especially in Europe, about whether you can reach out and contact someone yet and stuff like that. So I think it's better to sort of build that community feel. And in that what we're trying to do is create value loops. That's a key part of our strategy. So we get people keep turning up to different parts of our content or media machine, as we call it. So they turn up to the live events and they're reoccurring there through the live events. We promote webinars, we promote newsletters, that we get them to subscribe to a newsletter. We also push through those newsletters. We might push the podcast, and all of a sudden they're following us on LinkedIn and then reading our blogs, and now they're enjoying a value loop and getting more and more value from Cognizm, and in that learning more and more about our brand, and then becoming more likely to come forward then with that hand raiser to say, actually, I'd like to see what you guys do, or I've learned now about what Cognizm's doing and I realized you can help, and I trust you because of all of this authority and information you've given me over the time that I've been engaging with you. And then some people will then wonder, well, how do you measure the impact of if you're not tracking directly, if a registrant then becomes a meeting booked and then becomes pipeline and revenue, how are you tracking your webinars? So we'll measure impact in a number of different ways through those promotions, tracking UTMs through the form when they register to see where those registrants have come from, what promotions. We look at self-reported attribution. People will mention the live events that we do and they submit a demo request, saying where they've heard about us, or maybe that they came to cold calling lives, for example, in our case. And then we'll look at hockey stack or dream data, depending on the solution you use. And we can look at data there. So when we're pushing out ads then with all of the different snippets from the content that we've created, we can then track that back from that impression level data on LinkedIn and see how that actually affects conversion. Because it's not just actually whether people turn up to that event, it's also whether they either watch it on demand or actually look at that content elsewhere in your paid promotion cycle that actually determines the success of an event. If you're determining it just on the actual live show itself, then you're missing all of the other content benefit you get from it. And another thing you can do through Cognizm is we have instant enrichment. So we only ask on all of our registration events just for first name, last name, email, and the rest can actually be instantly enriched. So it comes in and we can enrich with the additional information that we may need. You don't even need to really do that, I think. If you're really following the community feel and having it, you don't need to get that information. But I think for some people, that information is really important for their CRM and other flows that follow, in which case the instant enrichment is a really easy way of doing that without having to have this big long form and ask too much of your registrants. So yeah, that's my top tips.
Again, pulling back to that frictionless experience. We love to kind of full circle. And Leonardo, you're going to take us home. I know that we're over the time, but we have added a few more minutes to finalize, close out these slides, maybe get a few of the Q&A. If we don't get to your Q&A, we'll definitely wrap up an answer from our experts for you. So this is talking about leveraging and repurposing your content. So Leonardo, what you got into this one?
Great. I'll be super quick with these. So I think that I mean the next question that most of us have after running a webinar campaign is the then what, kind of post-mortem. And I think a lot of marketers often make the mistake of just kind of closing down the campaign. So let's move on to the next big thing. When there is an opportunity to just create additional ongoing streams of pipeline and revenue. So I think the first action and the main question we have to ask ourselves is, well, we have this webinar, this piece of content. Now, do we want to run this as an on-demand webinar, or do we want to have it ungated, so as a video that is readily and accessible to consume on the internet? So I think it's often not just one or the other. It's not as simple as that. But some simple questions to kind of ask yourself is, how focused are you in terms of generating leads? How effective was that webinar in terms of generating leads, tracking, nurturing, and so on? Are you offering exclusive content, the kind of content people would pay for? If so, maybe it's worth running it on demand and keep on tracking those users who are registering. However, if your focus is, and this is very big in the EU, especially, let's say in Germany, from my perspective, where we are as a business, if our focus is on increasing brand awareness, building trust, then it's important that that content is offered freely. People aren't going to share their details if they don't trust you, they don't know you. Focus first on building that trust, provide value first. In short, ungated content always, in most cases, comes first. Once you've built that audience, that follower base, that name, then you're in a lucky position where you can run gated content. Great example is like HubSpot, where they have forms across most of their assets, and yet it still works for them because people know what they expect. They know HubSpot. They know they provide value. And I think the last point on this is, I think the first thing we typically look at is direct pipeline and contribution from webinars, but also look at influence deals. Extremely important. I know that we used to use this with Goldcast at my last place, which is looking at how deals affect current open deals, and how webinars currently affect open deals, and how do these webinars affect future deals, even if that might not be a first touch point. So I think it's really important to look at the kind of direct versus influence loop and report on both together.
Prove that ROI, right? That's what we got to do. So we have one last slide, and then we're going to answer just a few questions and wrap it up. So this is all about repurposing webinars. Tell us more.
Yeah, so I mean, we're in the age of AI. Everyone is doing a lot more with less time, in a way. And there are so many tools out there that allow you to repurpose video content, repurpose assets. I've had a play around with Goldcast Content Lab. Must say I really enjoy it. I think one of my favorite features is the audiograms. Big fan of the audiogram. So for those who don't know, audiograms is just converting your webinar snippet into an audio snippet, but still have some kind of visual element to it with subtitles. And the other benefit with Content Labs is the ability to just generate assets across multiple different channels within 1 or 2 clicks. I thought this was extremely useful to use other tools, and we use other tools in the company, but I think specifically looking at audiograms for an opportunity for social and SEO blog posts for an opportunity for search. So that is something that most businesses don't typically do, which is just translate your webinar content to written content. I've had numerous cases where we would have a blog article rank #1 on Google for quite a broad term, just because we were able to kind of translate, turn it into a written piece. In other words, there's so much opportunity with a single webinar, single video asset. It's just what you choose to do with it that will make it successful.
And if you're interested in learning more about that Content Lab, hit that clicker right now and you can try it for free. And we actually have a freemium model with Content Lab, and you get 1 hour of video content you can upload every single month. So you can do exactly what Leonardo just said, get more juice out of the squeeze when you host your webinars. And now I want to go through 2 quick questions real quick. So one is from Larissa. So she said, what channel do you feel drives the most webinar results for you? So who wants to answer this one real quick?
Happy to go first. It touches on what Silvio mentioned as well, which is just first-party data, CRM. Like, depending on the size of your CRM, I would say leveraging that, like leveraging email and what you can do with first-party data, that's going to be your biggest contributor. Outside of that, maybe social, depending on whether you're leveraging influencers and so on. Curious to hear your thoughts, Liam, Silvio.
Yeah, I mean, I just second that. Email is #1 for us, and then and then it's social. I think is really driven by authority. So email, and also the content you put together. I think the amount of brands you see just sort of posting promotional content about an event and it just falls dead. I think the smartest way of, like, the smarter you can get around it, that you're actually giving some value away in your promotion, is going to be the quickest way to make social better as well. So try and come up with more trailers and things like that to try and make it exciting and engaging, and not just what LinkedIn I think used to be, which was a bit dead, and it was just lots of people's banners and no one was paying any attention and everyone was getting 2 or 3 likes on them. So I think, email and social. And then I must admit, if you're looking for customers, I think in-app has proven really, really good for us. It's about meeting people where they're at. And I think obviously social and in-app are great places for that. And weirdly, I don't know what it is with email, but an invitation to something from email just seems to win still. People love it.
Silvio.
Yeah, I agree to all that. I would say, like, prioritize all of those first, and then ads should be like the tip of the spear, but not the spear itself, if you will. And the major benefit of using your first party data, whether it's an app, through your CRM, your website, is the quality of people. Because you've sourced them, they're likely to be of the fit of that you want to reach. Once you start to go into any advertising platform, you start to lose that, because you have to deal with match rates, you have to deal with targeting restrictions, you have to deal with ad compliances. For example, you can't run message ads in the EU just because of compliance. So now you start to have to play in that arena.
Well, y'all, we're at the end. We have less than a minute left until we get kicked off this stage. So thank you again, Leonardo, Silvio, Liam, for joining me today. This has been a blast. So much good content. I mean, we probably could have talked for another hour, but I don't think we're going to do that today. But appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And thank you, audience, for sticking around for all of this content around how to best use webinars as a marketing channel. We really appreciate it. If we didn't get to your questions, I will be sending up a follow-up to you specifically, because I know there were a few that we didn't get to cover today. But thank you again. Appreciate your time, and have a wonderful afternoon or morning, depending where you're watching from.
Care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See ya.